This one is a little harder to be funny about. Not impossible, but harder. Because when a guest takes something from your property, the thing they take is almost never the thing that actually costs the most. What costs the most is the exact moment you realized it happened. It's the turnover walk where something is just missing. The towel count that suddenly doesn't add up. The specific decor piece that was in every single listing photo, now completely absent. It's the quiet beat where you stand in your own space and feel that very specific violation of having opened your doors to someone only to have them leave with something that wasn't theirs. That isn't just a financial loss. That's a hospitality wound. Today, we're going to talk about why they do it and what your space is silently whispering to make them think it's okay. Welcome back to Coherent Ground. I'm Sam. This is part 3 and the final episode of our series, The Psychology of the Guess Who. Over the last 2 episodes, we looked at the guests who rearrange our furniture like it's a rough draft, and the ones who leave an intentional mess that looks like an act of war. We've reframed those behaviors not as character flaws, but as unspoken feedback about layout, flow, and expectations. But theft, that feels different. It hits very personal. It feels like a direct breach of the relational contract of hospitality. And because it hurts, our natural instinct is to lock everything down, write 10 new house rules in bold red font, and start treating every incoming guest like a potential suspect. But before you buy those lock boxes, I want us to take a breath and look at the data, because just like the moved couch and the sticky windowsill, a missing item is not just an irritation, it's information. So let's decode the taxonomy of guest theft. Understand the weird tricks the human brain plays in temporary spaces, and build an operational spine that protects your property without turning your welcome experience into a TSA checkpoint. If we're being completely honest, there is a taxonomy to guest theft that everybody knows, even if we rarely talk about it over coffee. First, you've got the souvenir taker. This guest genuinely, truly does not register that your curated brass tray or the vintage book on the nightstand isn't a takeaway gift. They look at it and think, oh, this is beautiful. This is such a beautiful touch. What a lovely keepsake for my time in Pahrump. Then you have the granular accumulator. This is a slow burn operation. They don't clear you out. They leave with exactly 1 washcloth or 1 hand towel per stay. They do it across 4 visits before your inventory tracking finally catches up to the pattern and you realize your gray linen set is now a set of 2. It's almost imperceivable, like erosion. Next, the opportunists. They didn't plan to take anything, but they spot something small, unmonitored, and high value. Maybe a premium charging cable, a brand new corkscrew, a high-end travel umbrella left in the closet. They make a 5-second decision, slip it in their bag, and they will literally never think about it again. And finally, the one we really hate to talk about, the deliberate remover. This guest showed up with a plan. They brought an empty duffel bag. They knew exactly what they were looking for, and they systematically removed it. Each of these is a completely different psychology, which means trying to solve all of them with one giant angry sign on the wall is a massive operational mistake. So what is actually happening in the guest's brain here? Theft in temporary spaces operates heavily on what environmental psychologists call the psychological distance effect. When we are physically removed from our normal social fabric, our neighbors, our boss, the people who know our names and hold us accountable, the behavioral rules that govern our everyday lives start to feel incredibly distant. A guest who would never dream of shoplifting from their local grocery store or take a book from a friend's shelf finds themselves in consequence-minimized environment, and the physical and social distance loosens their internal inhibitors. Suddenly, a bad decision becomes accessible because the social cost of the decision feels like zero. For your souvenir taker, the psychological driver is actually categorical confusion. Think about hotels. In a hotel, there is an unwritten agreement about what is complimentary. The mini shampoos, the branded pen, the stationery, sometimes the slippers. But short-term rentals have spent the last decade blurring this line. We style our properties to look like luxury boutique hotels, but we want our guests to treat them with the respect of a private home. If your space is styled with high-end, sterile boutique branding, but lacks any human relational anchors, the guest's brain defaults to hotel mode, and in hotel mode, their mental categorization gets messy. If it looks like a boutique hotel, they will behave like hotel guests, right down to taking the plush robe or the shower slippers. And for the deliberate remover, hosts often gaslight themselves here. We stand in the room and think, maybe I misplaced the copper kettle. Maybe the cleaner put it in a different cabinet. Maybe the wind blew the porch lantern away. If a high-value item is missing and the turnover photos show it was there before check-in, stop negotiating reality. It was stolen. Call it what it is. Document it immediately and handle it professionally through the platform. You do not need to absorb the cost of a deliberate act just to protect a review. Now let me bring this down out of theory and onto the valley floor, because I need to tell you about the season the Desert Valley Suite quietly became a gift shop. Except nobody was paying. Aromatherapy bottles, towels, coffee tumblers, forks. I want you to sit with forks for a second. Somebody drove out of Pahrump Valley with my forks. And then came the one. Matching coffee tumblers, gone. First aid kit, gone. The complimentary toiletries, and I don't mean they just used them. They wiped it out like locusts. And the keys, they forgot to return the keys. Now, here's the thing about the keys. The key policy is in writing. Keys don't come back, you get billed for the replacement. They knew that. It was right there. They agreed to it before they even walked in. So I called shortly after they checked out and we noticed it was missing. Friendly. Just a reminder about the keys. They drove back, and Johnny, bless him, helped them carry everything else in from their backpack. The first aid kit, the coffee tumblers, produced themselves from that backpack like a magic trick. Guilty little pipsqueaks, apologizing the whole time. Now, this is usually where a host goes in one of two directions. Either you get hard about it and start locking things down and treating every guest like a suspect, or you get soft about it. You eat the loss and tell yourself it's the cost of doing business. I want to offer a third door because look at what actually happened in that story. The keys came back immediately, not because I chased anyone, because the keys had a consequence attached in writing, and they knew about it before they left. The tumblers didn't come back until they were acknowledged. The tumblers had no policy. The tumblers had no price. The tumblers just sat there being nice. Available. And here's what I think was actually happening in the kitchenette. I don't think those people were standing there and they were going, I'm about to rob this woman in the desert. I think they were standing there going, is this ours? Is this a gift? Is this a sample? Is this like a shampoo in a hotel? That's the souvenir take, live in my kitchenette. Exactly the categorical confusion we just talked about. They weren't stealing, they were guessing. And I had not told them what it was for. So I stopped trying to fix the guess, and I fixed the frame. The nice tumblers came out. In went inexpensive mugs, the kind I do not lose 1 minute of sleep over. And one branded mug, just one, with a little card inside the cupboard. Like the mug, scan this, buy one. And the same object stopped being a temptation and it became a decision. Nobody has to guess anymore. It isn't free, it isn't forbidden, it's for sale. Now, the aromatherapy, I'm going to be honest with you, I never solved that one. 2 bottles walked off, and when I finally sat with it, I realized what I had done. I'd put a beautiful bottle in a room with no photo, no card, no sentence anywhere saying what it is, what it's for, and why it was there. It was just a nice thing sitting in a strange room. I gave that guest nothing to work with. So after the second bottle, I stopped replacing it, not out of spite, because I hadn't built the context. And an amenity without context isn't an amenity. It's an expensive question. An unlabeled thing invites a guess. A labeled thing invites a decision. So let's talk about what your place is guessing at. What is your listing layout and pricing strategy silently communicating to your guests? High theft properties almost always share 2 things: high value decorative items with 0 documentation and no visible accountability signs. If you have a $200 hand-carved wooden bowl sitting on an entry table and there is absolutely nothing in your digital welcome book your check-in instructions, or your physical layout that acknowledges its presence or establishes a connection, you are operating in a trust vacuum. To disinhibited guests, the bowl exists in a space where nobody is watching and nobody cares. But when you include a simple, warm, guest-facing inventory acknowledgement in your welcome book, asking guests to quickly flag anything that looks damaged or missing when they arrive, so you can make it right, you establish a relational contract. It isn't accusatory. It doesn't say, "Don't steal my stuff." Instead, it shifts the psychological frame from anonymity to shared stewardship. It wordlessly communicates this space is meticulously cared for. Everything here has a place, and we are in a relationship to look after it. We also have to talk about pricing and positioning. Theft patterns frequently spike when listing aesthetics and pricing structures misalign. If you have a luxury style listing, but you are pricing it at budget, rock bottom rates to chase high occupancy during, low seasons, you are creating a dangerous mismatch. You're inviting guests who want the high-end experience, but who do not have the corresponding sense of investment or accountability for the space. This is not a moral judgment on budget travelers, because I love a good deal. It is a cold, hard market signal. If your pricing is too low to the level of curation you put into the design, your listing is speaking a conflicting language. It's drawing a demographic that your operational structure isn't set up to manage. So, how do we protect our property and our peace of mind without turning our guest experience cold? Here is your 5-point operational playbook to build a system that holds. 1. Photo document before every single stay. This is non-negotiable. Your cleaners or yourself must take standard baseline turnover photos of your high-value zones before the door unlocks. These photos are not just for your peace of mind. They are your primary, undeniable shield if you ever have to file a claim through the booking platform. If you can't prove it was there 2 hours before check-in, the platform won't help you. 2. Add a subtle, warm note in your welcome book. Try framing it like this. Desert Valley Suite is fully stocked with everything you need for a restorative stay. If you notice anything missing, damaged, or out of place upon your arrival, please let us know immediately so our team can make it right for you. This simple note does double duty. It makes the guests feel cared for while quietly signaling you know exactly what is supposed to be in that unit, right down to the last fork. 3. Swap out high-risk decor. If you own an antique vase that belonged to your grandmother or a highly collectible art book, get it out of your rental. Replace high-value or sentimental items with lower-cost alternatives that photograph identically, but carry zero emotional weight. If an opportunist takes off with a $15 Target vase, it's a minor cost of doing business. If they take your family heirloom, it's a tragedy. Save your meaningful pieces for your own home. And if the item is something guests genuinely want, don't just remove it, price it. A QR code and card inside a cupboard door turns a potential loss into a sale. 4. Implement a security deposit structure. Now, not every platform allows deposits, so research this on your own. But the deposit doesn't need to be massive. Even a nominal deposit anchors guests' accountability. It forces their nervous systems to recognize that this is a structured, professional transaction and that their actions carry immediate financial consequences they can picture. 5. Adjust your positioning over your rules. If you are constantly dealing with missing items, do not just write a longer list of do nots in your house rules. Stricter rules rarely stop bad actors, but they absolutely alienate your best guests. Instead, look at your pricing, lift your rates, refine your listing descriptions, and target a guest avatar that naturally aligns with the level of care your space requires. Clearer market positioning solves what strict rules never can. The through line on this entire 3-part series isn't how to survive difficult guests. The through line is data. Every moved couch, every sticky windowsill, every leftover mess, and even every missing towel is a signal. It is not an insult. It is not a personal attack on your hard work. It is simply a data point about your layout, your choice architecture, your pricing, and who your listing is speaking to. Coherent Ground is about building a business that is legible, sustainable, and in deep alignment with your values and your nervous system. And that includes your guest experience, because the guest who tests your boundaries, who edits your layout, or who walks off with your forks is not a problem to be solved. They are simply feedback that you haven't read yet. Read the feedback, adjust the system, and keep your ground. I'm Sam Lewis. Thanks for walking through the valley with me today. Go find your ground.